One gorilla versus 100 men. What do you think, Quinn?
That's a tough question. I think it depends.
Well, it's easy. It's the 100 men. All we got to do is fight Shaq. Please don't tear my head off, Shaq. Still love you, but welcome to the DQ Frenzy, where we got chill vibes. Say the line, Quinn.
And cold takes.
Happy we remembered that this week. I'm Dylan Shields, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Quinn Schmiedel. And Quinn, draft week or weekend is all under wraps, and it was wild. Green Bay, Wisconsin. I feel like it was a really good host to have it. Our man Tom Grossi got to do a pick, so happy for him. Next year, it's going to be in my city, Pittsburgh, and I am officially filing in my application to select a pick, preferably the first round where we get Arch Manning, but whatever NFL, Roger Goodell, just please have me announce a pick. And Quinn can announce an Eagles pick where he gets booed out the building too. Maybe wait till the 7th round for him, but officially submitting our application, but we have to get into the draft, and we might as well get right into the elephant in the room because obviously he's the big headline, and that is Shedeur Sanders. Quinn, let's not talk about where we had him in our mock draft. We refuse to acknowledge where we had him.
Us?
No. I definitely didn't have him at 2 and Quinn at 3. No.
Yeah, nope, not here.
But he wasn't even close to that. He fell all the way to day 3, round 5, in Cleveland, having to trade up to draft Shedeur in the draft. And I don't want to say that I would say I'm happy to see that family get a little bit humbled because Shedeur apparently – like, he's been, like, the biggest name throughout this draft in terms of speculation where he's going. And reportedly his interviews didn't go well. I heard that the Giants one was a mess and they were just not invested in him. I heard a couple others didn't go well. I mean, the Steelers one I heard went decent, but, again, they passed on him. And it's weird. This is one of the biggest falls from a projected pick I've seen. I think we've seen in forever, or maybe ever. And that doesn't mean maybe Shedeur's like this talented, like next Hall of Famer, but no one expected him to fall this hard. And the first topic I wanted to get into, Quinn, was Mel Kiper, the hothead man himself, was not happy that Shedeur fell. And to me, he's kind of the Stephen A. Smith of draft experts, a hothead that just screams a lot, but says a whole lot of nothing. He knows his stuff for the most part, but sometimes he can go a bit off the bridge. And I got a video to show you, Quinn. It's a little less than a minute of Mel Kiper expressing his anger about Shedeur falling. And the host of the draft, Reese Davis, he's like a college football expert and host, and one of the more notorious and well-respected analysts. He knows his stuff, and he's usually calm and cool and professional. He was not happy with Mel Kiper at all. Check it out.
Now, whenever you're in circumstances in life, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, whether they're fair or whether they're unfair, you might have to deal with them.
That's
and
right.
now Shedeur Sanders has to deal with it. And for whatever reason, whether he played a minute, microscopic percentage, 0%, or it's a legitimate criticism of the way he conducted himself during the draft process, this was the result. Yeah. Now he has an opportunity to answer it. I think yelling at the NFL about it is not right.
There's not a quarterback. Boomer Esiason was not happy when he was the second round pick.
Tom Brady was not happy.
They dropped. How'd they turn out?
Nobody's arguing that. That can happen.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. Clueless. No idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many times
we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterbacks? They don't.
He really just mentioned Tom Brady in that name. Okay, then. Quinn, what's your analysis on all of this conundrum?
Well, starting with that video, I don't know. Mel Kiper, I never really watched him or put much stock in his opinion. I just haven't really seen a lot with him, and I don't really have any desire to see more with him, especially after all this of yelling about one guy who's arguably famous because of his dad. I mean, the reports I saw about him in the draft were he's good at pocket passing, and in the right scenario, he would do well, but he can't really run. He did, to be fair, he did pretty good considering he had a pretty bad O-line, but he wasn't a great prospect, which is why we saw him drop all the way to the 5th round. And, well, first, I think it's interesting. He's taken by the Browns at pick 155, I believe, in the 5th round. 144. Sorry, pick 144. What's interesting is the Eagles had the next pick, and 145. And they took a cornerback. Later on, they took a quarterback. But what's interesting is it seemed like they were going to take the chance on him and be like, we can use another backup quarterback. And then the Browns traded ahead of the Eagles to that pick right in front of 144 and took him. So, I mean, after he was falling out of the 3rd round, I'm like, it'd be interesting to get him as a backup quarterback because obviously, like, for us, like, there's no way he'd be starting over Jalen Hurts or anything. He probably wouldn't even be the backup. Like, Tanner McKee proved that he can be a good backup. And then we got Dorian Thompson-Robinson, too, so he'd be competing for the 3rd-string position. But it's interesting because it's really just like, oh, yeah, it's just at this point, it's like, oh, is it worth taking a risk on him? Clearly we see that teams are not impressed, and I don't know. With the Browns especially, I don't know if he's going to do a lot in this league, being the 5th round pick and with his dad. I think his dad killed his draft stock with all he's going to be in the top 5 pick last year, and he's 144. I've heard, like, teams didn't want the meddling dad involved, and he just wasn't talented enough, I think, for going in the 1st round. Clearly, teams agreed and didn't want to deal with that drama. But also what's funny is I'm sure a lot of you have heard about him getting prank called during the night. And surprisingly enough, it was by the Falcons' defensive coordinator, or he arranged it, Jeff Ulbrich.
His son.
Yeah, his son. And it's just like, you can't be the defensive coordinator of a team. So you have, like, owner, that's, top position. Then you have general manager, head coach, and then the coordinators. That's 4th, 5th most important position on the team, arguably. You can't be prank calling or having your son prank call or having any part in prank calling a draft pick. Like, no. And apparently the league has fined the Falcons $250,000. Their defensive coordinator himself $100,000 for failing to prevent the disclosure of confidential information. The Falcons released a statement saying, yeah, okay, fair enough. And then the defense coordinator wrote, on Friday night, I made a tremendous mistake. Shedeur, what I did was completely inexcusable, embarrassing, and shameful. I'm so sorry I took away from your moment. It was selfish and childish. I could never imagine getting ready to celebrate one of the greatest moments of your life, and I made a terrible mistake and messed up with that moment. Thank you for accepting my call earlier today.
Fake apology. His dad
I hope
made
you
him
can
do
find
that.
it in your heart. Yeah. And, like, but it's still ridiculous. Like, you can't. You can't prank call someone when you're in the NFL, you're in a team making how many millions of dollars, billions of dollars over time. And that's just crazy that actually happened by the son of the defensive coordinator. And the Falcons got fined for it because they were, But it's definitely an interesting thing. I don't know if it's fair to say he deserved that because he was very arrogant. But it's interesting. I'm not entirely Well, before in our draft episode, I'm pretty sure we were both saying we wouldn't be surprised if he fell out of the first round. This is probably a little more surprising, but then it wasn't like, oh, wow, he wasn't taken on day 2. It's like, oh, yeah, that's a bit surprising, but then again, interesting. But yeah, that really felt like the whole storyline of the draft. Nothing else.
Well, when you got a last name like that, it's bound to happen. I'll talk about the prank call first. It wasn't the first time it's happened, and this wasn't the only person that this happened to. It's very close to you, Quinn. A lot of people forget, including me, till recently. Cooper DeJean got prank called last year
He
when
did.
he got picked by the Eagles. The difference with all these pranks is the idiots that did it to Shedeur recorded it and showed the whole video of them messing around with Dion. Apparently, Ulbricht's son found it on his dad's iPad and somehow traced the number that somehow got leaked. Even though I heard Shedeur changed his number multiple times before the draft, but somehow they got access to it. I guess because if you're a coordinator or a coach of a team, you have to have access to contact information. But what is with these nepo children of NFL coaches? Well, first we got the Jets owner telling him not to sign Jerry Jeudy because his man rating's not good enough. Now we got this. This is getting out of control. And I got a whole list, thanks to CBS Sports, that it wasn't just Shedeur that got prank called. Your quarterback that you picked, Kyle McCord, got prank called. Isaiah Bond got prank called. He wasn't even drafted. Tyler Warren was one of the bigger ones out of Penn State. He got prank called. And Abdul Carter, I heard, got a little bit of a prank call as well. But, they weren't caught or recorded. It was just Ulbricht's son because, like I said, they decided to record it. And while, like I said earlier, it feels good to see that family get a little bit humbled because I feel like they're a little bit arrogant. I mean, the dude focused more on fashion and his brand rather than throwing at the combine and actually preparing for this draft. I don't think anybody deserves this. This is the biggest day of their lives, and you're out there messing around and prank calling, and it's getting out of control. And shout out to Chris Brockman of the Rich Eisen Show. He suggested this. Just FaceTime them. Do a FaceTime call when you announce the pick. Apparently, the reason why they even called the players in the first place is to make sure they have a pulse and they're alive. I'm not kidding. That's the reason why GMs and owners do that. But just do a FaceTime. That way, when you see their face, it's an actual executive and GM and president and all the staff on the team, and not some dummy Gen Z 20-year-old troll that is just poking fun. I mean, I bet that kid's going to be grounded for life and go into military school or something. You just cost your dad $100,000 and the team $250,000. That's rough. I mean, I could see from the prankers' perspectives why it's funny. It doesn't mean I think it is. I mean, listen, back in my day, my cousins and I a couple times used to prank call stores in random states. We used to call random places in California for fun and mess around with them. I've been a victim to prank calls back in jobs I've had that involve me having to answer phone calls. That's one thing. But to straight up just call someone in the biggest day of their lives, especially for a guy who fell this far, for anybody, it's too much. It's too much. And that's our generation for you. It's a bunch of trolls that think this type of stuff is funny. And like I said, from the prankers' perspective, I get why they think it's funny. That's how Gen Z minds think. We just want to troll everybody and mess around with people. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It's not cool. Don't do that. NFL needs to fix this, and I'll bet you they're definitely going to come up with something to fix it besides just punishing Atlanta. But in terms of his draft fall, maybe this was for the best for Shedeur, because if he would have been picked where you and I thought he was going to be picked, or maybe even just the first round, the expectations might have been too much for him. And already with his last name, it's such a burden on him, and his dad seems to be up his ass for a lot of the decisions he makes. I mean, Dion personally saying, I get to choose where he goes, or I have preferences. Like you mentioned, Quinn, that hurt. That really hurt his draft stock. And just him alone seems a little bit arrogant, seems a little bit selfish, it's all about him. apparently. And when you do that, teams are not going to want you. They want team players. Mike Tomlin says this: we want hostages, or we don't want hostages. We want players. So, as weird of an analogy as that is by Tomlin, I mean, it makes sense. You don't want a guy with that much baggage on the team. It was just weird the team that picked him, and we'll get into that when we announce like our analysis on teams and who we thought did the best and worst. So it was a bit weird when he got picked, but maybe it might be better off. Maybe he sits. Maybe he has a couple years to get ready, like a Jordan Love-esque type of thing. And honestly, when players sit longer, who knew? It's better to develop them rather than to rush them right in and everyone just expects them to be good right away. That's not exactly how stuff works. Finally, the Mel Kiper crap. I mean, the dude is, like I said, just a hothead that tries to be the loudest guy in the room, but says a whole lot of nothing. Like a Stephen A. Smith, I argue even like a Shannon Sharp, he kind of does stuff like that too, just yelling, but not a lot of substance. And he's been around since, I believe, the 80s. He's been a draft analysis guy for years, and he does, for the most part, know his stuff. He's not a bum at all when it comes to research. But for him to be personally offended by this, and I've heard guys like even Rich Eisen try to like bash guys for passing on Shedeur and just glazing him. Maybe Shedeur wasn't that good in the first place. Maybe we were over-analyzing him because that quarterback class was so weak besides Cam Ward that he jumped to the second position because off a name value. He's a good quarterback, but I feel like the hype might have been overrated for him. And I feel like, too, Kiper was disrespecting in that video, like, people who analyze and go to places like the Combine and scouting guys. I feel like he was very disrespectful towards them. It's not an easy job. NFL is a 24/7, 365 job. And for him to be saying, oh, teams have been clueless for years, for 50 years, Tom Brady got passed on. Tom Brady was not that good at Michigan. He was average at best. He went to a good team, the best coach, and the best fit for him, which Brady became a legend and a great player himself, but he needed the Patriots and Belichick. Brady will say that. So for Kiper to say that stupid stuff is ridiculous to me. Ridiculous. It's an insult to scouts and GMs and people who do their research and work their asses off while you show up once a year and just give your opinion on who's going to be picked. Like, why don't you be a GM? And if you think it's so easy to analyze and get a quarterback, it's not easy at all. We've seen plenty of picks that have been the biggest busts ever early and late, and we've seen some that have been like surprise successes. So it's a whole fiasco, but it's the highlight of the draft. I feel bad for my man Cam Ward. Dude got 0.5 seconds of attention, and it's like, oh, Cleveland traded with the Jags. So I feel for him because it's all about the dude that wasn't even the second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever quarterback taken. It was all about him. So wild situation there. Wild. But I've done so much talking, Quinn. We got to go over to our teams respectively in the Eagles and Steelers. Like you mentioned earlier, you picked a quarterback in Kyle McCord. You also made a trade with the Chiefs in the first round, which was very interesting. So I'm going to let you have at it here. Go analyze your Eagles draft. How'd you think your team did this year?
So naturally, the Eagles just kill it at the draft, draft champions. But yeah, so we traded up with the Chiefs, one spot to get Jahad Campbell. He's had some injury concerns. Apparently there was both of his shoulders and knees were not great, but he still performed at the Combine, so did really great. I think scored one of the best scores for I forget the acronym for it, but had one of the best athletic scores for his position in the past, I want to say 20 years or something. It was ridiculous. But I'm really happy. He seems like a really nice guy. He's an Eagles fan, grew up in New Jersey. He seems like perfect fit for the team both that way and just Alabama guy, drafted Alabama and Georgia players. We did also get our Georgia player too in the 5th round. But I think he's going to a really good addition, and he has plenty of time to heal up. We don't need him to start. We have good linebackers. I hear we kind of want to use him half linebacker, half pass rusher. Maybe. It's all kind of up in the air, too. Fangio will decide. But if he can be another Zach Bond, similar kind of player, and just dominant, that would be fantastic. But yeah, and then we took round 2, we took Andrew Makuba, a safety from Texas. People either love this or are like, meh, it's not great. I can see the potential, and he can be really good. With our defense, Fangio has our linebackers play the middle, and our safeties drop deep. And there's a clip of Howie Roseman saying, like, it's hard to get a good deep safety when they're talking about Andrew Makuba. So I think he'll be a good addition. I trust Fangio and our defense to put him in the right place to succeed. And I think he'll work out well, hopefully. If not, well, it's a second-round pick. We don't have any glaring needs, but round 4, no round 3 picks. Round 4, we took Ty Robinson, a huge defensive tackle from Nebraska. He is a freak. He is huge. He is large, like Jordan Davis. But
I'm large.
He's large. We know. Now there'll be 2 of them. Imagine the Benchwarmer brand shorts now. Anyway, he's a beast. That's exciting. This defensive line, too, rotating and learning from guys. BG, I imagine, is going to be in the building, too, talking with the guys. So, great pick. And then it kind of gets on. We had a lot of picks. We had 3 round 5s and 4 6-rounders. We took a cornerback, a linebacker out of Georgia, center, quarterback Kyle McCord from Syracuse. Again, he's going to be competing with Dorian Thompson-Robinson for the 3rd-string spot. Miles Hinton, another guard, and an edge. So a lot of our players are athletic, and they look like they could have pretty good potential. Antoine Powell-Ryland, too, 6th-round pick. An edge looks like he could be really good, but I was very happy with our draft. It was nice not having any glaring needs, but we still focused on defense. We didn't get any skill position, like exciting players. But then again, I mean, what do we have room on our offense? Not really. We have 2 rookie wide receivers from last year that I think can step up and compete for the 3rd spot with Dotson. But a little side note, Eagles news, we have exercised the 5th-year option for Jordan Davis, the other large man. But just wanted to mention that because I just saw that recently. But I feel pretty good. My least favorite pick would probably be the cornerback at a UCF in the 5th round. He's not, from what I've seen, he's not fantastic, but he could still have a spot. He seems like an Avonte Maddox kind of player and kind of role in defense. So fair enough. But yeah, I'm very happy. On the NFL website I'm on, shows all the picks for all the teams. They graded the Eagles an A-. There's no A pluses from what I've seen. There's a few A's and a few A-. So they really like the Eagles draft from what I've heard. People like it. But yeah, I'm excited. I like it. And now if you want to talk about your Steelers, in my opinion, they've also had a pretty good draft.
Yeah. I mean, I'd agree. I think we did a pretty good job. I think in terms of your team, too, you're the Super Bowl champs. There's no really glaring needs at all. Your offense, with the exception of maybe we don't know what Dallas Goedert's future is. Besides that, your weapons are all set, and your defense is still pretty loaded. You just maybe needed a little more depth there. So, Honestly, I feel like you did the best you could. My team, I think, had a lot more of a crucial time to have to be able to capitalize off this draft. And to me, this felt like a very Steelers draft. Very Mike Tomlin-esque, like Rudy family draft. Like hard-nosed, blue-collar, like grindy type players that are going to get the job done. That's pretty much what it was. A majority of it was defense. A majority overall, especially the first round of the draft, was tackles. A lot of offensive tackles and guards, defensive tackles as well. I think people and teams are finally realizing the trenches honestly might matter the most out of anything, because we saw in the Super Bowl when you have a good defensive line and you have a bad O-line like the Chiefs do, you get exposed. So it seems like teams were addressing that. Mine was no different. So at our 21st pick, we picked Derek Harmon, a hyped-up D tackle from Oregon. Obviously, I think the big story from this was his mother was on life support. I think she was on life support for years, apparently, and unfortunately she passed away. So prayers for him and his family. But he was able to tell her that he was able to be drafted before she passed. So that's kind of like a bittersweet, feel-good story. But I hope the family and friends of her and Harmon are okay. But I mean, it'll be fuel and like good motivation for him. He seemed very excited when he got drafted to be a Steeler, and all that Shedeur talk, man, especially falling to 21. A lot of teams thought we were taking him. Nope, Tomlin passed on him, and I like it. I think every time, especially on Instagram, when I saw us picking someone else that wasn't a quarterback, all these comments were, "Could they throw the ball? Who's their quarterback? Who's going to throw the ball?" Shut up. Shedeur was not necessary to be on that team. I think they've learned their lesson from Kenny Pickett. Even maybe if they rushed him a little bit, I still think they learned their lesson from him in terms of we don't need to take a quarterback this high in a weak class. I'm so happy they learned their lesson from that. I think this was the right pick. Cam Hayward, I know he signed an extension, but he's in his mid to late 30s. He can't last forever. And we need to bolster that up, and we need depth on that defensive line so bad. The run defense was horrible last year. Ask Derrick Henry how our run defense was. His 299 yards in the wild card will tell you how bad we were. So, yeah, I like that pick. And, of course, like a Mike Tomlin quote, he has Steeler DNA for us. So there you go. He led the FBS with 34 QB pressure, so he's a very good pass rusher and a little over 10% pressure rate, which is really good. And learning from a guy like Cam Hayward will be huge for him. And I think, like I said, it's the right pick. It's the right position. I understand a lot of offensive needs, like quarterback, running back, maybe fans wanted to have us have a reach. But I feel like this was more of a major need that needed to be fixed in our identities about the defense. The next couple rounds, we didn't have a second round, but round 3, we picked Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, the running back. Now, Scadaboo, I believe, was available out of Arizona State, and that was kind of the other one that Steeler fans kind of wanted, especially because his playoff performance against Texas, and he's more of a speedster. But, again, kind of fits the Steeler DNA. I mean, Iowa literally copies their jersey off the 70 Steelers, so it makes sense. And it's weird. He kind of reminds me of Najee a little bit. He might be a little bit better, like a better version of Najee if he plays up to his potential, because he didn't fumble at all in 2024. And that was one of the few things I liked about Najee was his ball security. That's what the Steelers are all about. And Johnson did a heck of a job there. Iowa's kind of like a run-first offense anyway. He's 6'1", 224, so physical running back, just the guy Arthur Smith is going to fall in love with in day one. But I think he complements well with Jaylen Warren. I keep seeing Kenneth Gainwell on ESPN. No, he's a returner. Sorry, I don't want to see that. Or Cordarrelle Patterson come out of nowhere and have 5 rated rushes. But him and Warren will complement well because Warren's kind of the antithesis of Johnson, more of a speedy, good pass catcher. So I like this pick a lot. I do. I mean, Scadaboo would have been cool, but Johnson seems to fit the system. I'm happy we just got a running back because that was a big need. Rounds 4 and 5, we again went to defense. In round 4, we got Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. He was the dude that took the flag away from the Michigan player that was trying to plant it on the Ohio State 50-yard line in the logo, and he was the culprit of taking that flag and starting a fight. And I think the guy that he took it from got drafted by the Browns. So, oh boy, when the Steelers and Browns play, that should be fun. But, yeah, I mean, he seems to fit Steelers well. He's a passionate player. A little bit undersized for an edge rusher. I think there was a couple others. I discussed it with my family. I think they would have preferred, like there was one out of Missouri that was a little bit bigger that they would have preferred around there. But I mean, I don't mind this pick at all. This kind of worries me though about TJ's future. The fact that we picked him, because he's definitely not going to be a day one starter with Watt and Highsmith, and even Herbig are going to play this year. But if they develop him well, if TJ's not staying here, he could fill right in. But to try to live up to TJ Watt's shoes that might be near impossible. But I still think it's a good pick. He had a big strip sack, I believe, against Texas in the Cotton Bowl to cause the touchdown. So he's a big game changer type player. So the size doesn't worry me too much. And he seems to have a good passion about the game, and he's a team player. This pick I was kind of not the biggest fan of, and that's Yaya Black from Iowa, a nose tackle. Just because I don't know how much nose tackles are relevant in today's NFL with more of a speedy type of passing game. I understand the Steelers want to be physical, and the run defense was bad, and Black will help with that. And he's a big dude. He's a big dude. I think he's like almost 400 pounds, but he is like very athletic. I don't know how often he's going to play. He kind of gives me Jordan Davis vibes in terms of like just a big tackle, not going to get a lot of snaps. I don't know if he'll have the same impact as Davis, but I don't know, that pick, give or take for me. Round 7, before I get to the Will Howard pick, we had 2 picks in round 7, Carson Bruner from Washington, the linebacker, and then Dante Kent, the cornerback from Central Michigan. Kind of impartial with those because those were both kind of needs that we need because we never seem to figure out the linebacker position. So maybe Bruner can shock people. I think he has more of a history with the Steelers and the organization because his dad was drafted by the team. He was a Steeler 30 years ago, so it makes sense. And Dante Kent, I mean, we're kind of set a cornerback right now with Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson, but nothing wrong with depth because injuries sometimes kill the team, especially at the end of the season. So he's only 5'10", 189 pounds, but he's very versatile, and he's a good man-to-man guy. So I don't mind that. But Will Howard, we traded up from Seattle and Chicago from a little bit of a 3-way trade because Seattle traded with Chicago, and then Seattle traded with us, and we got Will Howard, future QB1. I'm happy we addressed the position. I'm happy when we addressed the position too. I'm happy that we waited a little bit because you just don't want to take a reach that early. Address other needs first. And Howard, I mean, I don't mind this. I don't think this means that we're not going to get someone next year. I still think there's a big possibility we get someone in a better class. And still, Aaron Rodgers is looming if he'll get signed there. If not, it'll probably be Mason's team. It's one or the other pretty much. But, again, another passionate player. Him and Jack Sawyer, I think, were roommates in college at Ohio State. And, yes, Will Howard had, like, a lot of talent help him win that championship. But Howard had a lot of experience playing against, like, NFL-caliber teams, especially in the playoffs. I think that helps a lot. He's got a pretty good arm. He had a really good championship game. He's pretty clutch, as we saw last year. And like I said, he's a team guy. He's really likable. I think him and his family jumped in the pool when he got picked. He really wanted to come to Pittsburgh, I think probably because of Sawyer going there. So I think that was pretty well done. I think overall the draft was good. I don't think it was absolutely barn burner amazing, but I think we addressed the positions we needed. I think the overreaction of not getting Shedeur is stupid. He was not necessary for this team. And quarterback wise too, don't forget Rodgers might still be here, and next year's always on the horizon, and that might be the year we really get our guy. But Howard's good for now. I don't mind it. So yeah, I think both our teams, both the PA teams, did pretty good this year in the draft. I think it's safe to say. But Quinn, handed it over to you. Anything else stood out to you in the draft at all, and maybe some like winners or losers? I'm not a personal fan of grades because you don't know until they actually step on the field. So I think it's hard to say. Horrible draft. best draft ever. But what are your takeaways from this draft, and what teams and players stood out to you?
Well, so first, in regards to the Steelers, if it is true that their plan is to just bolster and then kind of not tank, but like next season get a better draft pick, trade up, get that talented quarterback, maybe not Arch Manning because he's probably going to be the first quarterback off the board, but trading up and getting a quarterback then, maybe. But I think that would be a good move, and this makes sense because you're kind of bolstering the rest of your team. I mean, Steelers love defense, and I mean, you certainly took care of that. Will Howard could at least be a backup. You're probably not going to keep Rudolph after this, so if he can turn out to be a good backup, that would do you guys well. But yeah, I think your draft was, I think it was good. It got you where you needed to be. Bolstering you next year when you take that quarterback and you have the rest of the team that supports you. Also, yeah, I would be concerned too because I heard trade rumors about TJ Watt going to Philly. So yeah, you might have to have
all teams.
Jack Sawyer develop pretty good.
Like you need him.
No, but that would be fun though, would it not? Yeah, stay in the state. Anyway, no, those are like jokey rumors, or the clickbait ones. But yeah, I mean, first jumping back to the mock draft in regards to how we did. Now I don't remember.
I did that.
Yeah, I got 4 picks right with the teams and locations. If you count Travis Hunter, I said he would be taken second to the Browns. If you count him as still second, then technically I get 5. But do what you will. The Jags traded up, so 4, maybe 5 if you're just counting positions. But yeah, not great. But we don't have to talk about that. Let's talk about the actual things that happened. So looking through, I think obviously like the Eagles, I thought the Steelers did well for what you like. I thought the Colts did pretty well too. They took Tyler Moore in the first round. They needed a tight end. I think he could be their mainstay tight end for a while. So they currently have the quarterback battle that's going to happen this year. So we don't expect like a lot from them, I don't think. Considering it's Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, and who we thought Richardson was going to be great, but it turns out it's looking maybe like he's not. But they did draft a quarterback, Riley Leonard, in the 6th round from Notre Dame, Dame, whatever. But yeah, they bolstered their defense. Their defense was like their strength for a while, and now it kind of dipped down a bit. So they took an edge, a cornerback, a defensive tackle, linebacker. So kind of trying to fix up their defense a bit. They took a running back, J.D. Jiggins. I don't know. Apologies to that Kansas State running back. I don't know why I can't say the name right now. But Giddens. DJ Giddens. But it seems like they don't need a running back, but it's nice to have another 1-2 punch potentially. It was taken in the 5th round, but I thought they did pretty well for what they need. And next year, maybe they can go up and grab a quarterback. Maybe Arch Manning to the Colts next year.
Oh my God,
that would be crazy.
Like father, like son, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Although Peyton didn't win a Super Bowl there, which they're probably not happy about. Wait, did he?
What do you mean? Yes, he did.
No, he did. He won one
right.
there.
He won one.
Sorry, no, he won one and then went to the Broncos and won the other. Okay, never mind. So yeah, he could win another Super Bowl. Otherwise, I like the chart. I'll say I think the Chiefs did pretty well too. They addressed their offensive line, built through the defensive line a bit as well. They didn't have a ton of picks, but they don't really need a lot of talent. They did get another wide receiver because every year one of the Chiefs wide receivers just goes and does something bad and then gets kicked off the team for the year, suspended or whatever. But speaking of the Chargers, I was happy with their draft. They took a running back in the 1st round, which I do believe they got rid of both their running backs before, and they got Najee, which we know Najee he works. He works out well. But Omarion Hampton from North Carolina was arguably the 2nd best back in the draft. If Genty wasn't in, he would easily be the 1st. That's obvious. But Genty was a special blue chip talent. So Omari Hampton's exciting. Get to see what he would do with Harbaugh. I think that will be fun to kind of boost the offense a little bit. Second round, they took wide receiver, of course, helping. They took a wide receiver in the second round and in the fifth round, help Herbert out. And then they took some defensive players, a tackle, edge. They also took a guard, spruce up the line, doesn't hurt. But I really liked their Omari Hampton pick there. And they took a tight end in the fifth round as well. This was a deep tight end class, but it's funny because the run for tight ends happened in the second round, which I thought the Eagles might take a tight end in the second round, but then all of them were gone. So we didn't end up taking one. But, yeah, I was happy with the Chargers draft as well. But otherwise, nothing really stood out like a lot to me. I heard people like the Cowboys draft, but it's the Cowboys, so clearly it's not that good. They now have all offensive line of Tylers. Tyler. I've heard the real reason they did it is because Jerry Jones can't remember names. So if you get all the guys with the same name, probably has a better
That
chance
wouldn't
of
shock
remembering it.
me one bit.
Tyler. Oh, yeah, Tyler. Yep, I remember Tyler. Wait, which Tyler? That Tyler? I don't know. I don't care.
Oh, Jerry. He didn't pick the Tyler that they should have picked, that Warren. So, yeah, I think this was a draft where I don't think anybody really did bad. I would say more questionable than anything. And I keep saying it's why I'm not a fan of grades, because you don't know until they're on the field. You can only analyze by what experts think. And they're not always right, Mel Kiper. So, but I'll go with ones. I'll start first with ones that question me. Obviously, Cleveland's questioned me a little bit. Obviously, just picking Dylan Gabriel before Shedeur and even just picking Shedeur in the first place. Why? That QB class is such a mess. They have now, including Deshaun, 5 quarterbacks. So they got to cut one of them. They're not cutting Deshaun because they still owe him money. It makes you think that one of these rookies are going to be cut, and that's
Better
just
be
going to
Shedeur. That'd be funny.
Well, it's going to cause a very tense locker room between the two, considering where Shedeur and Gabriel was picked. So I don't exactly get what the vision is. Like, what's their plan? Next year's quarterback class is a lot better, but yet they're kind of overbloated at the quarterback position. And as low as Shedeur was picked, I think he's the most NFL ready out of, besides Kenny. I feel like he's way more NFL ready than Gabriel, at least to me. So I feel like he's got to step on the field at some point. But if I were to put betting odds on it, I think Kenny's starting because of the experience he at least has. He's a
Super
Bowl champion.
Yeah,
the two ones as a champion. But I don't understand what this reeks of a Jimmy Haslam, who's their owner, pick, and I think he's a terrible owner. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was meddling and kind of like responsible, like, oh, let's just pick Shedeur. Like, pick a name out of a hat. Oh, Shedeur, oh, you're a Brown. So Browns are going to Brown. Like, I don't think it was horrible. I liked the trade in the first round for them to get Mason Graham.
That was good.
Yes, they got a good return. They got 2 picks later on. They have a first-round pick next year, which they could potentially get their quarterback. And passing on Travis Hunter, it just depends how good Travis Hunter is as a player. And which, speaking of which, where's Travis Hunter going?
Duval.
And I like have it on a loop. But I like Travis Hunter as a Jag so much better than a Cleveland Brown because of the quarterback he's got, because now he's got Trevor as his guy.
Competent.
The Jags filled a much-needed cornerback position and hit him, and holy crap, why can't I get the name of their star receiver? It's just complete brain fart. Brian Thomas Jr. That duo is going to be scary if Hunter plays up to his potential. So I think I enjoy him a lot more as a Jag than I would have as a Brown. But like I said, weird from the Browns. Another one I'm not a fan of is the Saints. it was weird in terms of needs because I felt like Banks was a decent pick. I don't think that was a terrible pick. He was pretty good. He doesn't allow a lot of pressures. But then they picked Tyler Shuck. Yes, it's
Shucks.
Shuck. That last name's weird. It's for how it's spelled, but it's Shuck out of Louisville. And I know the infamous post, I bet you've seen it, Quinn, was his terrible like combine throws. And they're being like, the Saints picked this guy over Shedeur. Now, he's a decent quarterback, but that's such reach to pick him when they did. I don't think it made a lot of sense. It made sense that they picked a quarterback, but Shedeur, I understand the baggage is a little much, but he's way more NFL ready than Shuck was. And I also think I think Shuck played college for like 7 years. Like apparently he backed up Justin Herbert at Oregon. So it's a little bit concerning that a guy was in college for that long and finally is in the NFL. But the Saints he probably will play, considering Carr's probably out for the year. And who the heck else do they have? The one
Better
dude
than
out of
Ritter.
South Carolina? Yeah, Ritter.
No,
Ritter.
Maybe? I don't know.
That's Rattler, sorry.
Rattler. That's right. Same thing.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, he rattles the whole team every time he plays because he's doesn't look NFL ready. So, yeah, just off of that pick alone, they addressed some needs. They just didn't wow me. And then the 49ers, the edge pick was a little bit odd. I understand Nick Bosa, besides him, they lost a lot of guys. But to reach on Williams, who I think didn't put up that many stats that well, is a little bit concerning. And they just basically went defense because they lost a lot of guys. But in terms of the players, like they don't stand out to me. Like Nick Barton, their pick's pretty undersized. They didn't even address like receiver and running back. I mean, which wasn't the biggest deal, but they picked them a little bit later. Like I said, it didn't really stand out to me that much, the Niners draft. Like, I don't think it was bad, but I felt like it was weird when they picked certain positions with much need. But they had a pretty abysmal offseason. Going to what I really liked. The Giants, I really like their draft. That doesn't mean I think they're going to be a good team. I still think they're probably going to be a weak team.
Woo!
But first of all, Abdul Carter, that's an easy pick for them. He's going to help out that defense that has been underrated, I think, for a couple years. With him, Sexy Rexy, Brian Burns, I think they're going to be a pretty decent defense for them. I just don't know how that offense is going to fare. But maybe Jackson Dart's their future. They traded up to pick him, which a little bit questionable, I guess, reach-wise, but he's kind of the definition of boom or bust, pretty much, is Jackson Dart. He can be the guy, but he can also turn into Danny Dimes 2.0. So you also have to see how the Giants develop. But the thing is, he will get time to sit at least for a year because Russ is probably going to start for them. And Jameis, I don't know if he'll still be there at the start of the year, but he is still there at the moment. So I like that pick a lot. And then they got Scadaboo out of Arizona State. And Tracy Jr. is no scrub. He had a really good year last year, but he needs some help. And I think Scadaboo is a pretty good help for that because
Scadaboo.
Anyway, he's very good at broken tackles. I saw a stat here. He's the only running back besides Genty to force more than 100 missed tackles on the ground last season. So he's very elusive. He's very quick. And I think the Giants at least had one of the better drafts they've had in a good bit based off of those picks as well. One more, and then I'll let you, Quinn, maybe see if there's any other teams that stand out. I like the Patriots draft a lot because they basically just addressed desperate needs, which was their O-line was horrible last year, and Will Campbell will help with that. I don't care if Will Campbell's got dinosaur-like arms. Like everyone wants to say, the dude was a menace in the SEC. That's all that matters. He's a Mike Rabel type guy. Drake May needs protection. And, yeah, he just played at a high level. And he played there for 3 years. He played with the Jaden Daniels type guy. So he plays with NFL caliber talent. I really like the Travion Henderson pick, too, because he's as explosive as he can get. If he can play up to his pedigree and his ceiling, look out, because the Patriots running back room just really wasn't working that much with the guys they have. So I think Henderson, if you could give him some time to develop into an RB1, I think could be good. Kyle Williams, they need a receiver. I mean, he was pretty decent. He after the catch is what he's known for. He was the best in yards after catch. That'll help Drake May out a lot. But then again, they address a bunch of needs. They got another center out of Georgia. So, again, big Georgia players should usually be pretty good. They got a tackle in the 7th round out of Missouri that they could slowly develop in the next couple of years. They got a couple of defensive rushers, and they got Craig Woodson, the safety out of California, which I think was pretty good as well, even though they got a lot of safeties on that team. But they're bolstering depth and also fixing much-needed issues at the same time. So, yeah, overall, I like the drafts. But I've said this a million times, but no one really had a bad draft. No one really had the best draft of all time because you don't know until they're on the field. So I'm sorry, I'm not a grades boy, but Quinn, any other opinions?
Well, since you're talking about some teams, I'll mention the Falcons, and I know there's been some interesting points with their draft. Yeah. Beyond that, but so the first round, they traded up in the first round and selected two edge players. Two edge players.
Made up for last year.
Yeah, first edge Jalen Walker out of Georgia, so Georgia dog, naturally. And then they took James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Now, Pierce Jr. was kind of up and down. He felt like some of the picks last year, edge rusher, which all kind of didn't pan out quite nicely, at least for year one. But it's interesting because he was kind of like half and half. He might have had some off-the-field drama. I don't remember. But it's interesting seeing the Falcons jump back up to the round one to make another edge selection, same position, which seems kind of weird. But I know they got a lot of criticism for that, and they only had 5 picks. Those two in the first round, they had a third-round pick where they took a safety out of Notre Dame, and then a fourth-rounder where they took another safety from Oklahoma, and then round 7 where they took a tackle out of Wisconsin. Like they had 5 picks, and they took it, edge, safety, and tackle. That's all they took, which I know the Falcons have more needs than edge, safety, and tackle. And, I mean, it's a tackle from round 7, too. Not to say that he's not going to succeed, but it's a far climb for him. Especially, I'm not sure about the Falcons' ability to develop tackles. I trust the Eagles a lot more, and I also trust their selection process of, this is a guy who's talented, let's get him, versus the Falcons of tackle in the 7th round. So it's interesting what they've done. I know a lot of people make fun of them, especially last year with the quarterback pick, which turned out to be all right, but interesting. I want to talk briefly first round. There's a few comments about like the steals of the draft. I think Jahad Campbell from the Eagles was counted as, I think, the overall steal of the first round, just because he was talented, but he got injured and fell. And of course, because the Eagles have the reputation for just stealing in the draft, that's fine. Also, the Lions with Tyleik Williams. No, sorry, not the Lions. Malachi Starks out of Georgia with the Ravens. People are talking about he's the next Cal Hamilton. Just great player. Somehow dropped down, took him, and exciting pick. The Ravens overall did it pretty well. So if you care about grades, NFL grades the Ravens draft as a flat A. They had a good amount of picks, including safety, edge, tackle, linebacker, another tackle, cornerback. They drafted a kicker in the 6th round out of Arizona. Anyway, so that's interesting. I saw a meme about it. It's like all of a sudden teams are taking kickers and punters in the draft. What is this, fantasy football? Oh, I'm gonna take a kicker in the draft.
Well, we all know why the Ravens had to take one. It's
Yeah,
pretty obvious reason.
That's true, but it's still kind of weird though that they drafted him. I guess they really liked him. Tyler Loop out of Arizona.
As long as he stays away from massage parlors, we're all good.
Yeah, really. But the Ravens, interesting. Definitely interesting. But yeah, some steals of the draft there. And then as well, I wanted to mention the Panthers pick of Tyrone McMillan out of Arizona.
I did not see that pick coming.
Yeah, it was interesting because people were speculating, and by people I mean the people who get paid to speculate about NFL picks.
We were.
Yeah, we'll be in the next Mel Kiper, but we'll be normal, relatively.
And I have a horrible hairstyle too.
Yeah,
dude's hairstyle's 40 years too old.
Yeah, but yeah, it was interesting because everyone's like, the Panthers don't really need a wide receiver. Like, they're talented, like, they're fine. But I mean, it would be nice to get another weapon for Bryce Young, but defense is more important. The Panthers are like, nah, offense. They're like, hey, Bengals, it worked out for you just having a quarterback and a wide receiver, right? Bengals like, don't do it. And they're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We'll take a wide receiver. But I guess if they didn't like any of the tackles on the board, or if they really liked Membu, or Campbell, of course. But it feels like they probably would have been a little better off taking a tackle to protect and give Bryce Young a little more time to throw. But again, maybe they're like, you know what, the Bengals did well here. We're just going to do that, even though, the quarterbacks are a little different, Bryce Young versus Joe Burrow. Well, now McMillan versus Chase. Now, McMillan could be really great. We don't really know. I'm not sure how I feel about Arizona State, who they're playing and their talent-wise, and what kind of cornerbacks he was going against.
Wasn't it Arizona, I think? Not Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. Sorry, just Arizona. Yeah.
Same state.
Yeah, same thing. Actually, Arizona State probably doesn't have any. They don't have anyone in the first round taken. But I thought that was interesting, and of course, we have to talk about what colleges had the most players taken.
Well, I think I already know because my uncle, whose son, aka my cousin, goes to Ohio State, wouldn't shut up about it because I believe Ohio State had the most.
Yes, Ohio State had 14 players selected. Just one short of Georgia's record in 2022. Suck on that, Ohio State. What losers. Anyway.
Tell them.
Yeah. Georgia was one player behind with 13. Suck on that. Texas had 12. Oregon, then it kind of goes down. Oregon had 10. Ole Miss had 8. Alabama, Florida, LSU, Michigan, Miami had 7 players. I think Penn State had
SEC Big Ten. That's the moral of the story, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. It's those college teams that always dominate, have the best players, have the best competition, and go on. And the new transfer portal makes it so players can get money and go play for bigger teams versus just a small school they're at before. And they're really able to get the attention and then go to Ohio State or Georgia. So it's interesting to see. Disappointingly, Penn State was not on that list. And unfortunately, Ohio State was first. But, you win some, you lose some.
He had Tyler Warren, so if he turns out to be a great tight end, who cares about all the other picks?
That's true. That's
Except Will
exactly.
Howard. I need him to be the next Ben Roethlisberger. But a final shout out before we end the episode to the Green Bay Mother Loving Packers.
Yeah.
Not only for hosting the draft, not only for Tom Grossi being able to have a draft pick, but for finally, after I believe 23 years, one of the years, over 2 decades, picking a wide receiver in the first round. Aaron Rodgers has PTSD because he's like, where the hell was this when I was on the team? Not only did they pick a receiver, they picked the speedster, Matthew Golden from Texas. Undersized. Everyone always says that about speedy receivers, but hey, if he can be anywhere near like a Tyreek Hill, maybe without all the offseason drama, then Green Bay might have finally found like a true down the line number one guy, or at least a really good slot receiver in the short term, because God knows they need something, because they have not been able to figure out their receivers, maybe with the exception of Jalen Reed, who's like inconsistent, but like still the best out of the bunch so far. So shout out to them for that pick. I think they picked another receiver as well, but it seems like they fixed a lot of holes. But yeah, that concludes our draft analysis. You will see Quinn and I live from Pittsburgh next year. Hopefully. I will 80, I'll say 90% go. Hopefully I can afford to, because everything's expensive these days. But I definitely would want to go. Maybe even like record a vlog or something, or maybe even go with the ESPN crew, or like do a live reaction or something. That'd be pretty cool. And
Stay
also
tuned.
The class has a lot more star power next year, so Pittsburgh gets the better players. Suck on that, Green Bay. But yep, that's gonna do it here for the DQ Frenzy. Stay tuned for future posts, because this kind of the post draft all of the NFL, where not a lot's happening, but Quinn and I are discussing ideas where we can still post some episodes, maybe fun lists, tier lists, all that fun jazz. But stay tuned for the future of the DQ Frenzy, let you know what's going on. But for this week, from Dylan Shields and Quinn Schmieda, where we have chill vibes and cold takes, have a good week, guys, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.